Big exciting news to start your Wednesday morning as Wall Street reacts to lack of stimulus, fear of lockdowns, and corporate earnings. It's something we all expected. The president overnight says that if reelected, he'll give you a big, bold, beautiful, big stimulus package. It sounds like a prediction for the new season of a daytime soap opera. Big, bold, and beautiful. The question is whether the president will get reelected upon promises he hasn't delivered. And ultimately, the blame game. Will the president's blame game carry him through the election? Or will he wake up and realize it's time to do executive orders right now, right here? We're motivated, we're ready, and we're ready to go. And it's going to be a great morning, and I'm so excited you to tune in for Mornings LALATE. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday morning. How are you? The coffee's brewing, the toast is toasting, the bacon's doing what the bacon doing, bacon. The bacon's bacon, and the butter is buttering. I'm glad you're here. You're here. I'm here. Your cat, your dog, your alpaca, your bat, your dragon. Well, no, there's no bats. That's the other channel. So glad you've joined me for a refreshing morning of breaking news, exciting news across the board for your second stimulus, for your stimulus package, for your third stimulus. Oh yeah, we're talking about that. Your first stimulus, you may now have gotten that check as well, and financial data to get you on your feet, financially secure and financially stable through this pandemic all the way to the new year. So glad you joined me. Go to the Funds channel, subscribe if you have not. This is the fastest growing community that there is out there. 300,000 subscribers. We're adding thousands every few days. So please join. The followers of this channel are called Purple Power. So if you see a lot of comments in the video, which I encourage you to do, you may see Purple Power. They're referring to this community. So thank you for joining. Also, like this video. It's helping the algorithm. It's really, really helping. This morning's early mornings LALATE, 2 broadcasts every day at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Both of them are trending today, this morning, in number 1 and number 3 positions. So we're doing a great job. To start the morning, boy, I'll have a lot of breaking news in this video. In this video, I will be going over the comments by Donald Trump overnight about your stimulus. Oh yeah. Someone talked about it. Seems like everyone else has gone into the witness protection plan, but at least he's speaking about it, so that's refreshing. Great news there. Second, Wall Street's down. I told you before on early mornings LALATE that I predicted it to be down. I predicted it to be down all this week. I continue to predict that Wall Street will be very volatile and very negative throughout the next couple days and all the way up to the election. And if it's a contested election, even worse. It's based upon lack of stimulus, as to be predicted, and it's based upon new lockdown orders. Third, I'll be going over job loss. Yeah, that double whammy as well. New job loss at Boeing, which reported corporate earnings yesterday. We have a lot of big corporate earnings coming today as well. I'll be covering that all throughout the day. Additionally, Congress focusing on something like your stimulus check today. No, sorry. No, they're focusing on Google and Facebook. It says, and they're doing it bipartisan. Yeah, can you imagine they're doing bipartisanship for Google and Facebook at a hearing today, even though they're closed and on recess and can't get bipartisan support for your stimulus. Yeah, it's much of that again. And then the Federal Reserve, not the Final Reserve, the Federal Reserve. The Final Reserve, yeah, that sounds like last night's Dodgers game. The Federal Reserve, is it running out of tools to help this economy? And why is no one in Washington listening to the Federal Reserve that said, give these people stimulus weeks and months ago? Is much of Congress just a bunch of nincompoops that don't listen to anyone? Maybe. You got to tune in to find out that in a second. All right, let's get to the breaking news. The breaking news as you start the new day, the Wednesday morning on the West Coast, and sun's coming up, and on the East Coast is Donald Trump wants to give you stimulus. Oh, that's exciting. The question is when, Mr. President? We've been hearing this for a little while. The president gave some comments about your second stimulus. Yesterday at the White House, I'll fully describe the situation. He was walking through the White House grounds looking for Nancy Pelosi's hairdresser. And he was walking around and he was asked about your stimulus. Isn't that great? Just sort of informally asked about stimulus. And then he informally gave an answer. So if you think that this answer is sort of vague and sort of non-responsive and sort of, I don't know what you're getting at, it's because of the informality of just sort of walking around talking about stimulus. He was asked about, where's your stimulus? And his response was, after the election. Oh, okay. That's sort of obvious because, there's now, 6 days away from the election. It's this coming Tuesday. And he says, after the election, we'll give the best stimulus package you've ever seen. This is really exciting because we haven't seen the second stimulus package, so it could be the only stimulus package we've ever seen. It'll be the best stimulus package you've ever seen. Someone needs to remind him that the American people have only seen one stimulus package. That was in the spring. And if you're an adult dependent on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, Railroad benefits, and you receive, and you're dependent on someone else's check, on someone else's tax return, you did not see the first stimulus package at all. So it will be the best stimulus package we've ever seen. This is, exciting. I hopefully we see it with some numbers. Then came the blame game. Of course, only 5 sentences into his statement, he was ready to blame Nancy Pelosi. Pelosi's only looking to bail out badly run Democratic cities. I don't think that's the only thing Pelosi's looking for. Yeah, she's looking for new hairstylists. We got that as well. There's that problem about the lockdown. So, she's trying to find one that doesn't have closed circuits security systems recording her for, Daily Mail and National Enquirer. That was what the president said. Tapping us along. She has little interest in helping the people. That's actually what he wrote. Then he continued. He says, Nancy Pelosi, she's only interested in badly run cities and states. She's not interested. That's all she's interested in. She's not interested in the American people. Ooh, that's actually a really good targeted, in the words of Mitch McConnell, targeted statement. I love that, actually. It's very good news, and it's very great news, because the president is really getting on message. The question is why he doesn't hit a little harder. He should have said, Nancy Pelosi wants to give $400 billion to state and local, and wants to give you a measly $500 stimulus check if you're an adult dependent on SSDI after you never got a first stimulus check. He should also say that Nancy Pelosi wants to give you a measly $1,000 stimulus check if you're a child, even though she says children going hungry, and she wants to give you a measly $1,200 stimulus check for 6 months that we've been through, and wants to give, she originally wanted to give $900 billion to state and local, and this measly little stimulus check to the American people. He could even compare the numbers. He could say, she wanted to give $900 billion to state and local, and she wanted to give about $200 billion to stimulus checks. I mean, she wants to give 4 times the amount of money to state and local that she wants to give to the American people, and there's a lot more American citizens than there are states in this country. Yeah, you can do the math. He should have hit a little harder, but he hit a little bit, and very good news. The question is whether he'll get on message and stay on message. Well, as we sit here today at the 7-minute mark, we know how many stimulus checks you're owed. You know how much stimulus checks you're worth, and you know how many stimulus packages should be on the ball and should be going right now. Where we left this, a week or two ago, was Steve Mnuchin was at $1,200 stimulus checks for adult dependents, $1,000 stimulus checks for children. All adults would get a $1,200 stimulus check. This is categorically incredible. So if you're a senior citizen on veterans benefits or on disability or railroad benefits, you get $1,200. And if you're a child, you get $1,000. All incredibly good news. The problem was that it's just one check. Not sufficient, Steve. What the issue is that Steve Mnuchin has said that he would give you multiple stimulus checks. He's just not putting in this bill. He said he would support the Problem Solvers bill, which had 2 stimulus checks too. The problem is the second one comes all the way next year. But, he didn't do 2 stimulus checks. And then there's Nancy Pelosi, who'd rather spend more money on her hair than giving you stimulus checks. Her stimulus checks are so cheap that even the hairdresser says maybe I should use water instead of hairspray. Her stimulus checks are ridiculously embarrassingly cheap. $500 for children, $1,000 for adult dependents, and $1,200 for non-adult dependents. I mean, it's just ridiculously, insanely cheap. It's ironic that, this week it's coming out that Senate donors for the Democrats are also cheap. They don't want to give any money to try to win the Senate, to get the Senate. So Chuck Schumer's running around like it's the opening scene of a Broadway musical, saying, Evita, Vita, Vita, or hello, Dolly. He's like, hello, Ed Dolly, is anyone giving me money? They're like, no, we're not giving you money. We're cheap, just like Nancy Pelosi. They don't want to give any money. And now there's thoughts that the Senate could remain Republican under Mitch McConnell's control. But Wall Street, let's turn to Wall Street. Wall Street's looking at all this and saying, you know what? This is a lot of talk. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Steve. There's a lot of talk, and this is not going to work. We need stimulus. We don't need talk. And so Wall Street's futures, which indicate where the market's about to open, were at a negative 600 before I started to tape. And just as I started to tape, the Wall Street opened, of course, and it's down 455 points as we start the morning. It's crashing again. 1.7%. S&P is down 1.8%, and NASDAQ is down 2%. Jim Cramer, CNBC's anchor, this morning said minutes ago, I think there's going to be a call for lockdowns, the likes of which we have never seen in Chicago. The lockdowns without the stimulus equals what we're seeing. It's a shame. It's actually a shame also. Because there have been stimulus, we've been focusing on earnings, and the earnings are actually pretty darn good. What's going on is that the number of COVID-19 cases are ravaging out of control, 83,000 per day on Friday and Saturday. The 6-day moving average for COVID-19 cases is record highs, and you're going to see lockdowns. You're going to see lockdowns, and these nincompoops in Washington who should have been already paying you now for the last lockdown are now not even setting themselves up to pay you for the upcoming lockdown. Where are we on this? Let me go over this right now. Stay with me. I'm at the 11th mile mark. I have a lot still coming up in this broadcast. First, you were owed stimulus checks for the first lockdown. That was March, April, May. We all know going into the month of March, there was going to be a 3-month lockdown. Congress knew it. So they put in 3 stimulus checks for 3 months of lockdown. They took out the 2 stimulus checks of April and May, so you never got them. We sit here today, we have still never gotten those 2 months of lockdowns. Then you were supposed to give you stimulus checks to cover you during the period of the non-lockdown all the way up to the present. Okay, so that's 7 months of stimulus checks you're owed you have not gotten. Now we're going into a new wave of potential lockdowns across the country. And guess what? We haven't been paid for the last lockdown. We haven't been paid for the period after the lockdown. And now you want us to go into another lockdown and you're not going to give us stimulus checks? This is what Wall Street's not happy about. In Europe, they're giving stimulus checks. In Europe, they're giving lockdowns. And now in the United States, it's a big concern. Shares of Delta Airlines fell 2%. Royal Caribbean fell 3.9%. European markets are crashing because they're worried about how we're not handling our situation. Uncertainty about COVID-19 related mobility, which is travel, and U.S. politics means we should expect volatility in the next few days. Well, thank you, Captain Obvious. I've been reporting to you since Sunday. Expect volatility every single day. Very stark ups and downs in the stock market and crashes because it's jittery. Now, understand, people may say, well, I don't have money to buy stocks. Ultimately, the stock market is an indicator of what's going on in this economy generally, but it's also the single most important indicator of this president. Corporate earnings are now coming in, and they're particularly all over the place. They're not good for the companies that are tied to the need for stimulus. And Boeing, which I reported to you yesterday, reported earnings. Its numbers were bad. And guess what they're doing today? Announcing job loss. So Boeing, the manufacturer of the airline planes, the planes that go in the air, that fly, it's like the birds. The Boeing, which had already announced 16,000 job layoffs, are now announcing more job layoffs today. So another 19, I don't know, I'm just losing track. 16,000 they announced, now they're adding 19,000. I'm just losing track. As we align to market realities, our business units and functionalities are carefully marketing staffing decisions to prioritize our natural attribution, said the head of the company, which basically says, "Thank you for your service. You're fired." It's just not reassuring. Now, what's also very problematic is that guess what Congress is doing today? Yeah, take a chance, take a guess. Well, they're not doing Judge Barrett. They've done that. Are they chasing the postman around? No. Are they doing a standalone bill for lobsters? No. Are they doing a standalone bill for pot? No. Guess what they're doing? They're doing a bipartisan hearing to deal with Facebook and tech companies. Isn't that reassuring that they can come together and do bipartisan troubles of tech companies in the middle of a pandemic that are basically the only people that aren't laying off people, and they're going to do that in the middle of a pandemic because they want to regulate tech companies, and they're doing it bipartisan, but they can't come together for that for stimulus checks. Isn't that reassuring? So if you're a little confused by why people are in session, let me explain. The House is no longer in session. The Senate is no longer in session. They're on vacation because they work so hard, so they cannot pass your stimulus. But guess what? Subcommittees are in session. What does that mean? These are not the floor of the House, the floor of the Senate. So subcommittees are in session. Do you think they're working on your stimulus? No. Ironically, and I've not explained this to you before, so I'm going to explain it to you right now. There are subcommittees that deal with your stimulus. They deal with the calculations of how much stimulus. There's subcommittees on on small business. There's subcommittees on budget constraints. There's subcommittees that look at your stimulus. Are they in session talking about your stimulus? No. So what are those subcommittees doing today? They're dealing with maybe breaking up Facebook or going after Facebook. Not particularly breaking up Facebook, but dealing with regulatory issues. Senator Richard Blumenthal, the one that loves to do impeachment hearings, in his sleep, he said there's more common ground than the people realize. That's so reassuring. Where's our stimulus? Blumenthal is talking about a hearing that's going to go on today at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is shortly before this broadcast airs. And in that, they're going to be talking about, regulating big business, filing the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, everyone's sort of shaking their heads because no one in Congress is listening to the Federal Reserve, which has said for months, stimulus, 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 send out stimulus. We can't do it. We're the Federal Reserve. Now, that's what the Federal Reserve has said. I disagree with that statement. But a new report out from Moody's Analytics, who I quote all the time today, says that the Federal Reserve is running out of options until stimulus is passed. They just don't have much more room to maneuver regard to monetary policy. I don't really see much more they can do. That's why they've been so explicit in telling Congress to pass stimulus, because they know they can't help. Well, they can't help, but they've also have been explicit. I'll have more about that on 28 coming up at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time. Let me go over some incredible comments and questions from yesterday's video. Timmy, please don't let the American people down. Dave, Nancy's hurting the Democrats. Jerry, what's going on? The American people are getting pissed. Harlan Mandingo, President Trump, you promised stimulus. That's his screen name? Okay. Tony S., I agree with the Republicans who said fire them all. Republican. Nicole, all elected officials should get one term. I love that comment, Nicole. Jim Kreisman, what determines our stimulus is what America needs. Diane, President Donald Trump got to sign the executive order for $300 billion of stimulus checks, $250 billion on unemployment, and $250 billion on renters assistance immediately. It's emergency help immediately. We have been hit the hardest for almost 7 months. Diane Tiebman, I love that comment. That's incredible. Pamela, they just have the nerve to ask for contributions. Patricia, I can only pray for California. It doesn't like Pelosi. James, it's kind of like this, the game show Deal or No Deal. Carlita, it's cold in Texas. It's cold here today. That's why I'm inside again. Brian, it's scary and worrisome. And it is. If you have questions in today's video, drop them in the comments below. We are going to get through this. We're going to get to the other side. I'll be detailing with you all throughout the day how many stimulus checks you're owed and when they're going to be coming and how you can urge to get them coming sooner rather than later. So stay tuned for that. Go to the French channel, subscribe, because no one's going to get through this pandemic with you better than you and I. We're part of this community to get financially sound and financially stable. Also, like this video. Coming up is 28 at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay at LA for more.